What are the legalities around videoing other people without their permission, especially children?
So we have POPI, right? The Protection of Personal Information Act. And for people who are watching this down the line, we're now in May 2023. POPI has been around for 2 years. And last week, we got our first ever enforcement notice from the information regulator. It has so far been a total storm in a teacup because, we were all hysterical about POPI coming into force and we must spend fortunes becoming compliant and it's so terrifying and 10 million rand fines and jail time and everybody was hysterical about POPI. And I saw all sorts of fake news on social media about you can't ever publish a picture of anybody without their consent because of POPI. That's nonsense, right? So when it comes to POPI, if you are processing somebody's personal information, then you do need to have consent or to fall within one of the other requirements for the processing of the personal information. Processing of personal information is just like if I do anything with your personal information. So I've got your name, Georgie Roberts, I've got your phone number, I've got your ID number, I've got a picture of what your face looks like. When can I do anything with that content? Can I store it? Can I publish it? Can I use it in any way? So that is processing, right? So what a lot of people don't know is that there is what we call a household processing exemption, which basically means that if you're using somebody's personal information for domestic use, so I take a picture of my child because they came first in their lead ren class, and there's some other kids in the lineup, and I put it on my Facebook page and I say, I'm so proud of my little tot and she's so delicious and I want to eat her. Then I don't have to ask permission for the other parents because it's a household processing, it's domestic processing, right? If I took one of those kids after one of my talks at a school and I made them hold up one of my books and took a picture of them and put it on my digital law company Instagram account, that's a commercial processing. That I cannot do unless I've got consent of the parents. But that's not the only privacy concern we've got. We've also got the common law right to privacy, which is if you can show that you have a reasonable expectation of privacy in a particular set of circumstances, and somebody infringes it, then you can sue them. It really just means, is this private, right? Okay. In this circumstance, in this situation, is what I'm saying, is that what I'm doing private? So if I'm standing on stage speaking to 3,000 people at the Sandton Convention Center and somebody takes a photograph of me, are they infringing my privacy?
Realistic expectation of privacy.
Expectation, no legitimate or reasonable expectation of privacy. But if that same person comes to my house tonight and takes a picture of me naked in my bedroom, are they infringing my privacy? Absolutely, right? So it's the same person, same subject, same camera, different expectations of privacy. So there are a few things we need to talk about. The first is the more you look after your privacy, the more of it you have. So if you've never been on social media in your life, you have a higher legal right to privacy than the person who lives every 5 minutes of their lives online. That makes sense to us, right? If you've got an open Instagram account, you hashtag the hell out of everything, you don't have an expectation of privacy over that picture. If you've got a private account, you do. So the first test is, do you have a reasonable expectation of privacy in those particular set of circumstances? And there was just a brilliant case that came out of the Supreme Court of Appeal. And it was a case where a guy was cycling through a farm. There was a whole group of cyclists cycling through a farm in the Eastern Cape. And they took photographs of this horrific animal abuse that they came across. And they went back and they submitted it to this guy who's got this anti-animal abuse Facebook page. And he published it on the page, these pictures of the animal abuse, naming and shaming kind of a post, alongside the guy's name, his full name, the name of his farm, the address of his farm, his cell phone number, and a photograph of him holding his baby daughter. So the person who'd been named and shamed rushed off to court to get an interdict on the basis that this had infringed his privacy, and it was awarded. And the owner of the Facebook page appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, okay, and this is a post-POPI world, which is very important. The Supreme Court said, okay, he published these 5 pieces of disparate information into this one Facebook post, but they were all publicly available. His name, his farm name, the address was on Google Maps, his cell phone number was on his website, and the photo of him holding his baby daughter was his profile picture on Facebook, which is set to private, no expectation of privacy. So it failed at the first hurdle. So the first step is to show you've got an expectation of privacy. Obviously, children, to answer your question, have a higher expectation of privacy. There are two defenses, though, if you do infringe somebody's privacy. The first is consent. So I say, Georgie, you can publish this naked picture of me. I give you permission. You can publish my cell phone number, how much money I have, my home address. I give you consent. The second offense is what we call public interest, but we should call public benefit. And it's where what you're exposing has benefit to the public. Really, it's where somebody's doing something illegal. Okay. So I'm thinking of some of these domestic violence cases that we've seen where footage has been released of actual domestic violence attacks. Now, somebody who's been named and shamed can't come forward and say, oh, what about my right to privacy? No, what privacy? When you do something illegal like beating up your wife, your privacy falls out the window, right? So don't think that you can rely on this privacy right to stop something illegal being exposed. So that's the first. So it's a long answer to your question, Poppy. Don't worry too much about Poppy if it's for personal use. And then, is there a reasonable expectation of privacy? Remember, the more you look after your privacy, the more of it you have. The more you look after your children's right to privacy, the more of it they have. If you can show you've got a reasonable expectation, you can have your privacy infringed in two instances: consent and public benefit.